so let's get into it. So the first question that we had was, should I drop out of nursing to take literature? And it goes something like this. I've just finished my first semester at nursing at Plymouth University, and I thought I loved it, but after going back from Christmas break, I'm really rethinking my whole future and considering going to study English literature at the University of Glasgow. I'm worried if I continue, I'm going to be stuck in a job with long hours, with no social life and no creative outlet. But on the other hand, I'm scared that with a literature degree, I'll get no decent job at all. All right, cool. So great first question. So let me start off by saying that this predicament that you're in is a predicament that a lot of people find in their lives. And this predicament isn't just about people who are at university. This predicament is actually a problem that's going to happen all throughout your life. I very strongly believe that we all have defining moments in our lives where essentially we have to make like a really big decision, and that decision literally alters the course of our life. But one of the other things that I firstly want to mention to you, which is really important, is that I've come to understand something which is bizarre, but I learned it from actually Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs said that you cannot connect the dots looking backwards, you can only connect the dots looking forward. Sorry, you cannot connect the dots looking forward, you can only connect the dots looking backwards, which means that you have to have faith that things are going to work out. So sometimes in life, you have to make a decision that goes with your gut but isn't logical. And many times when you make that decision, it won't make sense. In fact, a lot of the things won't unveil themselves. It's like watching a movie where... Have you ever watched a movie where you will not find out what's going to happen or what things mean in the movie until you're about 3/4 of the way through the movie, right? If you've ever watched a movie like that, where you're watching the movie and you're trying to figure out what is going on, this doesn't make sense, why is this like this? And in life, that is the way life is. Some decisions that you're going to make in your life, you're going to make them based on instinct, based on a gut instinct, based on a feeling, based on I don't know why, but this just feels right. And you won't be able to figure out why you made that decision until you're 3/4 of the way into the decision. So I would share with you that one of the first things that I would do is I would begin to follow my gut instinct. And particularly I'm guessing, because you said that you're a nurse, I'm going to presume that you're a girl. I'm making a generalization. Obviously, guys can be nurses as well. But I'm going to make the presumption that you're a girl. And this is what I would say. Women, as a general rule, have a really, really, really good leaning towards their instinct. Meaning, women usually, their instincts are right. I don't know why, don't ask me, I don't want to get into the research, I'm just telling you, genuinely speaking, women are always right. If a woman feels something, if she's like, my boyfriend's cheating, my baby is ill, my baby is not okay, genuinely speaking, the woman is right. And a lot of women, unfortunately, are talked out of things that they feel are right by other people. Because women are so innate and they're so driven to please everybody, many times women are actually talked out of really good decisions and the best decisions. And one of the things that I've learned from having, number one, 4 women in my household and studying loads of women is follow your gut. Your gut is usually right. So if you feel like you should go to a certain university, go to it. If you feel like this isn't the right path for you, don't go for it. Look, in saying that you have to follow your gut instinct, of course there's an element of having to be logical. There's a reason why we both have a logical mind and the creative mind. So you do have to be logical because, for example, you said that you've got to think about, will this get me a good job? And that is something that you have to think about. And so in answer to that question, I would ask yourself 2 things that I've noticed that you said. Number one, you've said that you're a creative person. So clearly, let me go back. I believe that in life, there are two aspects to life. There's what I call the A to Z, which is basically what do you want, and then how do you actually go about getting it. And the second is the art of living, meaning if you become successful and get what you want, but you are not happy with yourself, you will actually be a failure. You will end up a very unhappy person. So in answering, okay, so we figured out that you want to be successful, good. The second question that we have to look at, and is actually more of the priority of a question, is around what is it going to mean when you get what you've got. So if you clearly identify that you're somebody who's a creative, that means your whole life is going to need to be based around that pillar. Because if you're not creative, if you're not thinking outside of the box, if you're not somebody who's tearing things and breaking them down and pulling them apart, it will destroy you down the road, because you will have everything, but your leaning, your home, your where it feels natural to you is not where you're going to be operating a lot of your life. So I would look at, number one, what routes can allow me to become successful whilst I'm still creative. Because the reality is, come on, let's be honest, if you're a nurse, the whole UK nursing system is been designed. You don't have any freedom, right? Structures are there to basically, structures and institutions are there to keep stability, to keep things predictable, to be able to hold people accountable. They're not there for you to be creative and break the rules and change things up, right? Leaders do that, and then you then have the wrath of being hated and whatever. So I would share with you that you want to really look at and explore everything that is available that you can pursue. For example, one of the things that I've learned in my life is that you have to expand your definition of stuff. As you begin to get older and develop and understand life more, your definition of stuff should expand. For example, if you say that you want to help people, expand your definition of trying to help people. So for example, you could say that you wanted to become a nurse. Yeah, that's one element. You could become a teacher, you could become a mentor, you could become somebody who is a doctor, you could become somebody who's a receptionist, you could be, do you see what I mean? You've got to really expand your definition of what it is that you mean, because a lot of the time we can be so hell-bent on I have to become a nurse. No, you don't. Because the reason why I tell you this is because as you get older, if you identify your mission and your purpose and your leaning with your role, you're going to always be stuck. Because, for example, if you find that actually, for example, give me an example of, for me, when I first started off doing like speaking and stuff like that, I wanted to help people who were like in their 40s and 50s. But what ended up happening was that I began to realize that actually the people who listen to me and the people who genuinely constantly are asking me questions seem to be young people, right? Young people who are younger than me, who are like in 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Those are the people who are really interested in the stuff that I talk about. And so because I wasn't so hell-bent on I have to be a speaker and I have to speak to people who are 40, it allowed me to reinvent myself. This word reinvention is going to become more important as you get older. Really remember that word, reinvention. It's really, really, really important. I learned it from my granddad, because my granddad basically got divorced from my other grandma. And I was asking him, oh, Grandad, we were basically on a holiday to Wales, our entire family. And I was asking Grandad, like, Grandad, what's some of the things that you've learned, obviously now being married a second time? And my granddad said to me that, Cass, one of the things that I've learned is that as you get older, you're going to go through different stages. Your relationship is going to go different stages. So he was saying to me that him and my grandma, like, my other grandma, when they first had kids, their relationship was a certain way. Then, after they, before they had kids, their relationship was a certain way. Then they had kids, then the relationship changed. Sometimes they were at football, sometimes one of them was at work, sometimes one of them was taking the kids swimming, so their relationship couldn't be the same way as it was when they were dating. Then, after the kids left, he said to me that they had to actually learn how to date again, how to be around each other. In other words, they had to reinvent, constantly keep reinventing their relationship. Metaphorically speaking, I'm saying to you that you as a person are going to keep going through these evolutions and these reinventions. And if you're really rigidified and you're like, Kasim, I have to be this and I have to do it this way and I have to, you're always gonna, basically, this is what's going to cause you a lot of the pain in your life. So what I would share with you is I love the fact that you've actually identified, oh, okay, so this is not worked out for me. This is actually something that I want to look at. I love the fact that you're actually thinking. Because when you're thinking, this means that you're starting to pay attention to your life. You're starting to learn about yourself. This is what I absolutely love by what you've put and what you've said. So I would personally recommend to you, start journaling. Start, like, literally get a journal like I have and start really writing this down. The other thing that I always try to do with myself is I try to look at people who've made the same decision as me ahead of me. So what are their life like? So for example, if you looked at people, if you, for example, decided to go for the English literature degree at Glasgow, go and find people who've got an English literature degree from Glasgow. There'll be loads of them. There's alumni, right? Most universities have alumni. I think that's a phrase that you use. So go and email them. Go and ask the university. Go and look at people who've taken the same degree and where are they in their lives. It shows you the scope, the options that are going to be available. It shows you what their life is like. Because you may look at that and say, actually, that's not really for me. Because, for example, one of the things that you've looked at, as you've already done, is you've looked at becoming a nurse and how that actually, in 2, 3, 4 years, you're not going to be able to be living the kind of life that you want. Let me finish off by saying this to you. The easiest way to determine what you want is to figure out what you don't want. The more you figure out what you don't like, what you don't want, what doesn't fit for you, it will only leave a very limited choice, which is what you basically are good at. Is what will be left is what you naturally will be leaning towards. Now, I will say this to you. Usually, the thing that is best for us and the thing that's going to allow us to become successful is usually the thing that doesn't make sense, that makes no logical, like there is no payoff right now. Everybody's going to hate it. Everybody's going to say, well, that doesn't make sense. Well, that's stupid. Usually that is a path that is best for us. Because what it means is it's not in alignment with other people's expectations of you. When people are like, I can see you doing that, that's really dangerous because it means that they've basically they've already identified who you are and where you're going to be. They're not taking into account the growth that you're going to be going through, the changes that you're going to be going through, the development that you're going to be going through. They're not taking that into account because they don't know what your potential is, what you're capable of. When you know your own potential and your own capabilities, people should not be able to predict the next 10 years of your life, because how can they? You're going to be growing and developing and learning and traveling and experiencing. So that was what the first thing that I would share. That's essentially what I would share with you, and I hope it kind of answers your question. Okay, cool.